Hi, I'm Mike. Today is all about the projects that no one wants to do, but somebody has to. Roadkill and manure. It's all coming up on the project list on our Wyoming Life. Hi there, and thanks for joining me on our Wyoming Life. 3 times a week we give you a chance to explore the ranch life and escape the ordinary. And it's not always pretty. Please subscribe and join us as we bring you the entire ranch, from the animals to the gardens to the stuff you don't even want to think about. Behind me is the project list. It's a board on the wall in the shop where we keep track of all the projects that need done around here. We add to it constantly, and we keep crossing them off as we get them done. Some days we're ahead, but to be perfectly honest, most days we end up in the hole. It's a constant battle, and a lot of times what we tackle on the list comes down to weather. It's still winter here in Wyoming, but over the past few days, we've been lucky enough to have a warm front moving through. Temps have been up in the 40s, which has been melting the snow and giving us a bit of a break from the bitter cold. Winter will be back, but replacing the cold for now is something that usually moves in when we have warmer temperatures in the winter: the wind. It's been blowing a steady 30 miles an hour for the past few days, and our first project list for the day ties in with the warmer temperatures and the wind. As you probably noticed, a 2-lane highway runs right by the ranch. In fact, it goes through the ranch, separating a large chunk of land from the main part of the ranch. During the winter, our heifers live on the other side of the highway. Our bull pasture is over there, along with the horse pasture. Having a separation like that doesn't seem like much, but for me it can be a large pain. I cross the highway many times per day, but I'm not the only one. Mule deer inhabit this area of Wyoming, and because food is scarce and water is even more rare, the deer are constantly on the move, crossing the highway probably just as much as I do. Now, my mom taught me a long time ago to look both ways, but deer, well, they don't take that precaution that often, and it's a common occurrence for us to look out the window and see a car pulled off to the side, people pulling up to help, and a deer laying in the ditch. I don't know the exact statistics, but a lot of deer and antelope get hit on the highway along our stretch. The unfortunate part of the deal, besides cars being damaged and of course the death of the deer, is the fact that the deer are usually just pulled off the road and left in the ditch. Sometimes a state employee will come pick them up and take them away, but more often than not, it ends up being my problem. You may ask, why do we care? And that's a good question, but it's one that I actually have an answer for. As the deer decompose in the ditch, predators move in. Coyotes, bobcats, and the occasional mountain lion. Whatever can get a free meal. These predators I'd rather keep away from the area that I'll be calving in just a month or so. Also, with neighbors selling land and subdivisions going in like crazy, we now deal with more dogs than we ever have in the past. Last year, 3 houses were built that border right on the ranch, and those decomposing deer also entice dogs and bring them onto the ranch as well. The year before last, we lost almost 30 chickens to one dog in the span of just a few minutes. The dog wasn't trying to eat them, but he was chasing them, and that kind of stress will cause a chicken to just drop dead. So, as everything thaws here for a few days, what up until now has been a few frozen carcasses are now thawing and smelling, and they need to be taken care of. I've given up on anybody from the state coming to pick them up, so we're going to head out in the tractor and take them to the dump, where we can bury them next time I can borrow my neighbor's backhoe. It's not a complicated job, but it can be messy and disgusting, and luckily it's not one that I have to do that often, although in the summertime I will pick them up as they're hit on the road, getting them away and buried as soon as possible. Now, I counted 5 deer in our little stretch, a little over a mile, and with each one, the job doesn't become any easier. They're pretty spread out, and some have already been visited by a predator or two. But once they're all loaded up, I can take a breath. Deer can carry diseases, most commonly tick-borne diseases, and even though these deer are dead, I'm not taking any chances. And once I have them picked up, I take them to the dump, and they're disposed of. Then it's back to the shop, to spray some bleach on the bucket and wash it off. And last but not least, my gloves go in the incinerator. But the fun doesn't end here. After grabbing a new pair of gloves, I picked these up for about $1 a piece at Home Depot, it's back out to tackle another weather-induced problem. As the temps rise, snow melts, and that resulting water can get things a bit messy. Our steers that we're finishing for butcher live in this corral, where unfortunately the runoff from the roof of the shop drains right into. There's another thing for the list. Some sort of drain tile to move the water from the downspout on the shop to farther out in the pasture and away from the corrals. We'll put that on the list once we get back to the shop. About once a week, I end up cleaning this corral out, weather permitting, and the steers know the routine. Soon after opening the gate, they head right through to wait for me to do whatever it is that I plan on doing in their corral. They're pretty patient about it, mostly because they know when I'm done, they're going to get a new bale of hay, but that comes later. The ground is still frozen, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that we can scrape along the ground, picking up manure and waste without having to worry about digging out a bunch of soil. Using the box blade on the tractor, we can begin picking up all the manure we can, moving it into smaller piles, then picking it up with the bucket of the tractor, which I know I just cleaned, but we'll probably need it again by the time we're done. Each trip around the corral picks up more and more, and before too long we can switch to the Bobcat, using the smaller and more maneuverable tractor to get into tighter places in the corners, including inside the shed where the steers are able to seek shelter. Round and round we go, and I think I'm getting dizzy. 2 more big loads go in our manure pile, which will become compost for the ranch and recycled. Then we can switch tractors yet again, and this time into the John Deere 6420, the feeding tractor, which we are going to use to go and get the steers a bale of hay as well as a bale of straw for bedding in their shed. Back across the road we go, where the heifers stand guard, and we can grab a bale of straw weighing about 800 pounds and a bale of hay. Back across the road again and into the stall, placing the bed of straw into the shed, cutting the strings that hold it together, spreading it out a bit, then heading back out of the corral to grab our bale. This bale will go into this Bale Feeder. Now, Bale Feeders work great when feeding smaller groups of cattle, as only about 10 or so cows can stand around this thing at one time and eat. They still make a mess pulling it out of the feeder, but it keeps most of the hay contained until they're able to finish it up. We cut off the net wrap, which is always fun in the wind, and then get the tractor out of the way, bringing the steers back into their corral, where they get to spreading out the rest of their straw. Some days out here you can stay almost clean. Other days you might as well not even try. But I have to say, cleaning the corral is so much better with the equipment that we have. The smell, however, is something that permeates everything it touches. Erin can tell from the house when I'm cleaning corrals, and if it's springtime and I'm doing it, and heaven forbid she has a window open, I can guarantee that I'm going to get an earful. Luckily for you, you don't have to smell anything. I just checked the forecast, and we're back down in the single temps soon, and it's a good thing that we got done what we did. As with life, there's sometimes a few small openings, and if you don't take advantage of them now, you never know when the next time will come around. Speaking of coming around, thanks for joining me today. Rarely ever is the ranch life glamorous. Even the truly great things, when they happen, you just saved a calf, for example, you're still covered in afterbirth. Please take the time to subscribe if you can. Join us on Facebook as well for lots more from the ranch life in our little corner of Wyoming. Have a great week, and thanks for joining us in our Wyoming Life.